already made 4 MMO videos, and at the end of the last one I said that would be my last one. Because up until that point I was simply showing people what already exists. Going past that point would be pure theory crafting. But no one said I can't talk about something that people already talked about. Okay, not entirely. You see, a lot of people mention some good and big reasons why Riot's MMO is set up for success. I will repeat some of those points in this video. But the reason why I decided to talk about this topic as well is because as someone who has been with Riot Games for over a decade, I know their patterns of behavior. I know their entire past when it comes to monetization, and that means all the good stuff and the bad stuff. I know their past when it comes to their game's success. And I know what they do when things don't go well. And some of these points tell us a lot about how Riot's MMO is shaping up. On top of all of this, Canon had the exclusive interview with Ghostcrawler, where we got quite a few golden nuggets, which includes a line that pretty much tells us that yeah, Riot is gonna go through with the MMO.
One of the nice things about Riot is we're not going to run out of money, right? I'm not going to have a publisher that's like, hey, if you got to ship by Christmas or we're canceled. Riot will cancel this game if the game isn't good enough. They're not going to cancel the game because it gets too expensive. And
This sounds great.
It does.
So after combining all of this, suddenly I have a new topic to talk about. The real reason why Riot's MMO is set up for success. Let's start with all the things that we already know about. Perhaps the biggest reason for Riot being on the right path is already having a loyal following. When World of Warcraft launched for the first time, there were lines forming up around entire blocks. And why was that? Well, first of all, it's because digital purchasing was not a thing. But more importantly, because people knew the Warcraft universe from the other games. And they knew Blizzard as a great developer. Of course, Riot is riding the same wave. Hopefully with a different destination. People know League's universe from League of Legends. And Riot is essentially where Blizzard used to be. They are known for their great games, exactly as Blizzard used to be. They are known for taking a game idea, polishing it, and making it better than its inspiration. Exactly as Blizzard used to be. Speaking of which, if you're a fan of MMOs and you don't know much about Riot Games, you might be surprised to see all the successful games they have released. Of course, League of Legends launched as the better, simpler version of the Dota mod from Warcraft 3. Nearly 10 years later, Riot launched their second game, Teamfight Tactics, which was a new version of the auto chess from Dota 2. And once again, using characters people already know and love from League, Teamfight Tactics dominated its competition. And it now remains as the only big and still growing auto chess game on the market. Then we got the third game, a card game using League's characters called Legends of Runeterra. From all of the Riot's games, Legends of Runeterra is the only game that didn't fully dominate its game genre. That's because card games already have a very narrow audience. And digital card games slowed down their growth. But on top of that, it is hard to pull someone away from their card game if they already spent money on it. However, despite that, Legends of Runeterra still managed to match Hearthstone. So these two are still battling for dominance, with the other card games being very close. After this we got Valorant, a new player-friendly version of Counter-Strike. Or at least new player-friendly compared to Counter-Strike. Which is also using iconic characters for marketing. Even this game managed to dominate the tactical shooter genre. And now it is doubling the numbers of their two main competitors, Rainbow Six Siege and Counter-Strike. But then, after Valorant, Riot went back to MOBAs. They looked at Mobile Legends Bang Bang. That's the real name, by the way. They realized it was essentially a League of Legends on mobile, and they realized, why don't we do that? But better. And so Riot released League of Legends Wild Rift, a mobile version of League of Legends, which in many ways could be regarded as even better than League of Legends on PC. I mean, look at all those polygons. That's running on a phone.
Yep.
On top of that, even though it is a mobile game, it is using fairly standard monetization. And right now, while Wild Rift is dominating in the West, Mobile Legends Bang Bang is still dominating in the East in some countries. So Riot is currently in the process of dominating the game genre. But Riot did not end here. They recognized that people wanted to play more games with their League of Legends characters. And so they launched Riot Forge, a smaller publishing studio that is working with indie developers to make games with their IP. And here we already got 2 games. Hextech Mayhem is a League of Legends spin on the rhythm-based Bitrunner, a 30-minute game which I have about 10 hours in, and Ruined King, which is about 40-hour-long RPG that is telling a canon story from the universe. Also, you can find me here.
You may simply call me Necrit.
That's me! But in 2023 we are also expecting 2 more games. Song of Nunu, which seems to be an adventure platformer taking place in the harsh Freljord, and Convergence, a 2D action platformer in Piltover that seems to be lining up really well with Arcane 2. Both of these games were delayed from 2022 to 2023. Because... guess what? No, it's not crunch time. It's because Riot Games actually care about their games. With the 2 already released Riot Forge titles scoring 80% and 90% of overall positive feedback. So, the takeaway from this is, yes, Riot has a history of nearly flawless game releases. They have not seriously flopped yet. And their monetization practices are not too far away from this. In Canon's interview, Ghostcrawler straight up mentioned they will not sell player power.
We're not going to do pay to win. We're not going to do pay to power. I'm pretty confident saying that. The business
that's a big one.
I probably said that, or a lot of players. It's just not Riot's style. Right. We really want players to feel like they're welcome back in the game at any time. And yeah, if life is rough right now and you're between jobs or you just can't, you can't pay for the subscription, I'd rather them not churn out rather than be able to keep playing. So that's why Riot has traditionally liked free-to-play with purely cosmetic purchases.
As you heard, Ghostcrawler didn't even approach it as big news. He just casually dropped this piece of info because that's a given at Riot.
Does that mean the MMO that they are busy creating with is also going to be free-to-play with just cosmetics as payment, basically like that? That would be so huge. That would honestly be so fucking awesome.
At games. Now I know what you might be thinking. In the past, some other developers from some other studios said they wouldn't do it.
But they didn't.
Until the moment they did it. So what makes this different for Ghostcrawler? Well, you see, this is simply how Riot operates. And if you need a proof, look no further than Riot's future game known as Project L. Project L is a league-based fighting game, and Riot is making sure the fighting game genre is yet another genre dominated by Riot Games. And in their latest dev update, they mentioned the exact same thing.
We want you to be able to play no matter where you live, what your skill level is, or how much money you have to spend on a game. To that, I'm happy to confirm that Project L will be free to play. If you've played a Riot game before, this probably won't come as a surprise. Our team is made up of fighting game veterans and folks who are passionate about serving the FGC. And we operate with one approach. If we wouldn't like it, we won't do it. When it comes to monetization, we promise to be respectful of both your time and your wallet.
Respectful of both your time and your wallet. Theoretically, this doesn't exclude buying power. Anyway, what this means is that Project L will most likely run exactly like League of Legends. You play the game for free to unlock fighters, but you can also buy them directly. Now, because they mentioned that they will be respectful of your time, hopefully the grind won't be that awful. I assume it will be something similar to Valorant, where you can unlock each new character every week. Not one character per month, as some games are doing it now. I mean, it's the same studio, they can just pass over the numbers and see what worked. And because they mentioned your wallet, I assume the skins won't be as pricey as Valorant. Speaking of which, let's talk about the overall monetization at Riot Games and what it means for Riot's MMO. Besides the indie titles, which are standalone games, every Riot game is a free-to-play game, which run on skins and time-saving monetizations. Now, when I say time-saving monetizations, you may jump to the conclusion that even time-saving is indirectly buying power. However, that really depends on what you are buying, and in Riot's case, I can confirm it is not pay to win. But before we get to that, let's quickly talk about the skins. In League, Riot struck a good balance, with most champion skins being between 5 and 10 bucks, with the vast majority of them having unique spell effects. And occasionally you can buy the massive 20 bucks skins, which change up the entire animations of the champions. All of that is fairly standard, nothing crazy here. But I have to say, as I mentioned in my last video, it seems like Riot is shifting their focus away from League. But while their focus is going to the other projects, they have to keep the monetization going. So these days, League is actually getting less gameplay content than we did a few years ago. But we are still getting the same amount of skins. This means that because the vast majority of the content is skins these days, it seems like skins are dominating everything else. And I find it funny that you can connect this to what Ghostcrawler said in the interview about monetization.
To look at League of Legends, for example, if we stopped making champions and just kept making skins, at some point players are like, well, this kind of sucks. You're only focused on the money-making side of the game. So you need to do both. You need to make sure the game balance is good. You need to update everything that you can in order for players to feel good about it.
Yes, it kind of feels like League is in this situation right now. In Teamfight Tactics, you can do the same thing. You can buy a skin for a little commander on the battlefield which you control, which is called Little Legend. These are always on the cheaper side, with some more expensive alternatives which also have unique execute animations when you defeat an enemy. However, every Little Legend also has a legendary variation, which you can only get from eggs. And eggs are essentially loot boxes. And the amazing thing is, the TFT team realized that these loot boxes are bad. And after their first year, they allowed you to buy any Little Legend directly. Of course, it is possible that government with their anti-gambling pressured them into this. But as far as we know, there were no lawsuits and they did it themselves. And since people trust them on this, if anything, it shows you their reputation. TFT also offers their Battle Pass, which to this day has perhaps the best value out of any pass in any game. However, Teamfight Tactics also has the arena skins. Because these are a massive chunk of landscape, of course they are a bit pricier than normal models. But the unfortunate part is that sometimes they also offer the legendary arenas, which go for up to $200. And I say up to because these arenas are a randomized drop. It is guaranteed to drop from egg number 60, which is around the $200 mark. But since you can get it earlier, you are essentially rolling for a discount. When Riot first announced this, I was shocked. I simply didn't expect it. But then Mordog, the lead TFT developer, talked about it on his stream. And I realized I was wrong. Because TFT is so free to play, by which I mean you can't go more free to play without giving people money back. I mean, while in other games you grind for new characters or something like that. From the moment you log into TFT, everything is unlocked and you get the full experience. Even in League, that's not the case. Because of that, he mentioned that there are people who want to spend money on TFT, but they can't. Because in this game, you only have one Little Legend, so you technically only need one skin. Once you have the one skin you like, you don't need anything else. So, the team wanted to give the whales some food to support the game. And if you still feel like this was a greedy move, just listen to what Mordog has to say about it. For context, he is gonna mention Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa is one of the $200 skins.
Obviously, TFT has to make money to succeed, right? And so we have these expensive cosmetics that people want. That being said, if you don't have money, it can feel left out, and I agree with you. So typically what you have to do is you have to look for the opportunities to find something kind of comparable, And there will be opportunities. You're not going to be able to get everything, but for example, during events, there's going to be ones that are more accessible. You might get lucky and get one during an egg. It's also the kind of thing where, like, let's say you really like Dragon Chibimancer Kaisa. Who knows, in 2 years it may come back in a thing that's a promotion and be a little easier to get, you know, as time goes on. You never know, and so you have to find your moment where you can get the thing you enjoy, rather than, you know, you have to have the new now. And unfortunately, like a lot of things in life, money counts, and it sucks when you don't have money. It really does, and I know that. I've been there. So that's my honest answer. Hopefully that was genuine enough.
I have never seen a dev so open about a massive, almost corporate level game. But yes, if anything, this shows you that Riot is trying to be fair about their prices. Lastly, when it comes to skins, we have to mention Valorant.
Yup.
Because Valorant is perhaps their most aggressive monetization.
Valorant
There, a
skins
normal
are fucking
recolor of a gun is
expensive.
about $10, with a full new model going for about 20. On top of that, melee weapons, so for example knives, are double the price. So, for a unique model on a knife, that would be $40. And on top of that, sometimes you get bundles of special weapons with unique finishers that go for up to $100. The logic behind this pricing is that for each gun you are only going to buy one skin. So once you buy a skin, you are unlikely to get another one. There is no gambling involved anywhere around Valorant. It is very much unlike Counter-Strike. So at least the monetization is not predatory per se. That said, it is still pretty high. Now that
It's
was
true.
all the notable skin monetization. It's fairly standard and sometimes the prices can go higher. However, remember, we are still talking about purely free-to-play games. So, let's talk about the potential pay-to-win. For Riot, the worst offender of this could be skipping grinds and buying characters. We can find this in League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra, and Valorant. In Legends of Runeterra you can buy cards, but no one ever does that because the game gives you so many free cards you really don't have to do anything. In fact, the game is notoriously so fair it is struggling to make money. In Valorant you can unlock a new character every week if you really grind. Realistically, it is a new character every 2 weeks. And in League you can buy champions directly, which could have been translated into power in the past. However, unlike in Overwatch, where picking heroes in the middle of the game can decide the game, and where the game is balanced around counterpicking, in League, that's not really the case anymore. A few years back, the game was balanced around hard counterpicking being a thing. But these days, Riot is trying to make sure that's not a thing for a very obvious reason. Unlike in Overwatch, in League you lock in your champion for an entire game. So if you get hard counterpicked, you are not gonna have fun for the next 30 minutes. To combat this, Riot is slowly removing hard counterpicks from the game. And now you may have a slight advantage, but in general any champion can win against any champion. Because of this, if you look at the players at the very top of the ladder, you may realize that all of them are playing one champion. So in League, if you buy a champion, you don't buy power, because owning other champion won't affect how your game is going. But you buy the option to try out other characters. With that said, I should mention that League currently has over 160 champions, and the game is giving you a lot of champions for free to compensate. And again, it is free to play. But there is one more thing I need to mention. While Riot is built on a strictly not pay-to-win monetization, there was a time when you could buy power. This dark age will scare even the most powerful veteran players. Of course, I'm talking about runes. Yeah, for the first 7 years in League's history up until 2017,
toxic,
besides buying champions with the in-game currency, you also had to buy runes. Runes were basically sockets. They gave you tiny bonuses like 0.1 attack damage or 1% crit.
This brings back
Of course,
so
1%
much
crit
memories.
was ridiculously overpowered, because all you needed was that one rune that gave you 1% crit chance, because by default everyone had 0. So in the early fights, what would happen if you had the tiny chance to win the lottery and crit them? Well, you would essentially decide the early fights. So of course, everyone always had at least one 1% crit rune. Anyway, the problem with these was that you needed a lot of runes to fill a rune page, with one full rune page being equivalent to one champion of the highest cost. But also, you couldn't customize the page before each game started. You had to set them up ahead of time, and then when you were picking champions, you would lock in one of the pages. By default, the game gave you 3 rune pages. So usually you would set up one for attack damage, one for ability power, and one for tanking. But what if you wanted to play a support who needs mana regeneration? Well, you had to buy an extra page, with each new page costing the value of yet another new champion, or $5. Basically, this would be equivalent to buying dual spec in WoW, except you could buy it with real money, and you needed it 5 times. So what did Riot do? Did they lower the price to make the system a bit more fair? No, they removed it entirely, because pay to win is not what Riot does. The reason why it was in the game in the first place is because it was an idea from 2009. Back then, they didn't even know how they wanted to monetize their game, so they were trying out random things. Anyway, as you can see, even when Riot gets close to pay to win, they always steer away from it. They know how bad the impact can be, and their normal monetization formulas are working, so why would they damage it?
And this is why the MMO of Riot is going to be absolutely amazing. Due to it is not going to be pay to win, like at all. Like that guy said, it's going to be free to play, and then the cosmetics are going to cost money, which is absolutely amazing. Like, I absolutely am 100% with that.
Now, this entire time, I pretty much talked about things that everyone else talked about as well. The 3 big factors steering the course of Riot's MMO. Number 1 being people attracted to the IP, number 2 being monetization that is nearly guaranteed to be fair, and number 3 being the fact that Ghostcrawler mentioned that the team working on Riot's MMO is stacked. Anyway, besides these 3 points, there is also a hidden 4th one. And it's a big reason why Riot's MMO is set up for success, and I'm not joking. It's something no one talked about because everyone is focused on the gameplay. But I strongly believe this one might affect how Riot's MMO rolls out. You see, League has been selling skins for 13 years now. That is 13 years of gathered data. Data which can be applied to the MMO. They know what skins sell and what don't. They know which aesthetics are appealing and which are not. But most importantly, they have skin lines in League that people love. And these could be ported over to the MMO. Now, if you don't play League and you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain. Instead of just giving random champions random skins, Riot likes to connect skins together and make them part of the same alternative world. For example, there is the High Noon alternative universe. And champions who share the same High Noon skin can be cowboys, clockwork angels, demons from the Wild West, and people corrupted by demons. They all share the same thematic, and together they make up an aesthetic that people get attached to. So what happened over the years is that Riot made skin lines that people love. And every time a new skin from that skin line is released, it is an instant success. And of course what they can do is that they can take these successful skin lines and sell them as transmog in the MMO. If you consider the fact that they have 13 years of customer data about purchasing skins, they are set up for success if they decide to sell premium transmog. Because they know what transmog is gonna be popular. What's even cooler is that even though they didn't give us the exact order, Riot confirmed 5 of their most popular skin lines. So now, let me show you what might potentially appear in the in-game shop. Again, there is no particular order, but first there is the Project skin line.
Yeah, the Project
This
skin line
one
is
is an
honestly the
absolute
best.
classic. It is a futuristic skin line with energy, blades and guns, as well as some really deadly robots. Next there is KDA. The success of this skin line is driven by the popularity of their virtual K-pop band. The songs were a massive hit, and of course these skins were too. So this one seems like easy money. though I'm not sure how my Freljordian Barbarian is going to be wearing one of these. Next, there is also Darkstar, a skin line around dark cosmic entities that are destroying worlds. The vast majority of these skins are stunning. And I have to point out that Darkstar Jhin is one of the best-selling skins in the history of League. Then we also have Spirit Blossom, a skin line released with an awesome visual novel inside League of Legends. This one is themed around Eastern legends. However, this skin line is also unique, because this skin line portrays mythical stories that Ionians believe in the canon universe. So in a way, these skins are canon. It's just that the champions are not themselves as champions, they are portraying the mythical stories. And lastly, there is the Star Guardian skin line. What originally started as a Sailor Moon knockoff eventually became its own universe with some very cool stories. The Star Guardian universe is perhaps the most popular one, with Star Guardian Jinx also being one of the best-selling skins ever.
Yeah, but it's
so
just
this
such a
one
fucking
would
good
be an
skin,
easy
though.
moneymaker too. But this time we have 2 male champions here, although it would still probably look weird on my Barbarian. But that is it for all the things I wanted to talk about. There was one more point, however, that point kinda crumbled. You see, I wanted to mention that while Riot Games is running their games in the West, in the East it was ran by Garena. Which meant that as the West had their normal monetization, Garena could use the Eastern monetization in the East, and the two basically had their own ecosystems. However, a few weeks ago, Riot just cut off Garena entirely, and they decided to operate League of Legends in the East themselves.
Damn,
What's funny
okay.
is that Blizzard kinda tried to do the same thing, but Blizzard is not able to run their own games in the East. So while they also cut off their own Chinese publisher, because they can't publish it themselves, WoW is just gone. Anyway, what I wanted to mention originally is that because there is the West and East,
Oh, shit,
because in the
okay.
East players are more friendly towards pay to win, Riot can now operate 2 different ecosystems themselves. And so, even though I'm not really sure if this still holds up because they are no longer ran by Garena in the East, I still believe that Riot can run separate monetization in separate regions.
True,
because now they are controlling everything themselves. So who knows, maybe there will be pay to win, but that pay to win will only be in the East. I believe that's how Lost Ark is being handled, but I could be wrong, maybe the chances are the same everywhere. Anyway, Riot's MMO seems to be shaping up really well. That is probably because the people behind it seem to know what they are doing, their player base is ready to try out anything, and should we actually get a good game, their monetization is ready to shoot it up into the stratosphere.
Yo, this is gonna be so good. This is honestly going to be so...
There was also that time they were trying to sell achievements, like not achievement unlocks. You had to pay to access achievements, which was then followed by a separate version of the achievements which was totally free, so we don't talk about that.
Oh, this is going to be so good.